Welcome to another episode of Fight the Burnout. Again, brought to you by Create From Why. We have a special guest and veteran, Michael Parker. And as I said, brought to you by Create From Why, where we take and we help you break through your barriers and never burn out again. So if you want to know more about that, just email us at team@createfromwhy.com or go to www.createfromwhy.com and book yourself in a time so you can talk with me specifically, and we'll talk about where you're at, what's going on, and where you want to get to, and bring some excitement and joy back into that life. So, Michael, welcome. We know each other from another kind of group peer support thing that we're part of, which is amazing. It's called Power of Your Story. If you are a first responder and you're kind of going through some stuff, again, send us an email and we'll get you in touch with the right people for that. Now, I know today is not a police or nurse or EMT. It's military, which is amazing. I haven't interviewed somebody from the military in a little while, which I'm excited about. My cousin's ex-military. I have a ton of respect for you guys. So, Michael, why don't you, without further ado, tell us a little bit about your experience with military. I know you've got some PTSD stuff that you've dealt with and you're working through, and I know what you're doing now all correlates with all that. So, tell us a little bit about where you're from and your journey.
Yeah, man. Well, again, it's a pleasure to be on here. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, so I was born in Arkansas. My dad is career Army. He's still actually serving. So I grew up all over the world. I guess at the age of 3, I decided I was going to be a Marine, and that just never changed. And as hard as my parents tried, they just could not never talk me out of it. So at a certain point, they just kind of accepted that that's what I was going to be one day. So after I graduated, joined the Marine Corps. Obviously, I had a lot of childhood trauma. We won't talk about all that right now, but that played into things that ended up getting falsely accused of sexual assault. Found myself sitting in the brig for 9 months awaiting trial. The charges got dropped, and still found myself kicked out of the Marine Corps, which kind of left me in a bad place. That's spent your whole life planning for that. You plan to serve 20 years, and 2.5 years in, it's over. No real plans for the future. Also, almost a month after I got out of the brig, while I was still waiting to process out, I found myself sexually assaulted. So I had that to the stress and trauma from being in the brig. Got discharged in December of 2014. Went back home, didn't address anything, just kind of dealt with it how I knew to deal with it, which was alcohol. Continuous bad decisions from there. Found myself, in a really bad place. Also, shortly after I got out, my unit went on deployment that I was supposed to go on with them before I got in trouble. We lost a couple Marines, so there was some guilt and shame there as well. So I was in a really, really bad place. They teach you the signs of PTSD and everything. I just ignored them. I was like, well, there's no way I can't have PTSD. I've never been to combat, blah, blah, blah. Also, I guess I kind of was just like, if I ignore it, it'll go away. Not true. Not a good way to deal with it. Until finally I just had a moment, and I broke down. Ended up stabbing myself in rage 4 times in the chest with a knife. That's when I was admitted into the hospital, put on a 72-hour hold, diagnosed with PTSD, depression, anxiety, all that stuff. Of course, put on medication. A lot of it didn't work. Not saying medication's bad, it just didn't work for me. So I really struggled. I had 3 more suicide attempts. The last one ended me up in trouble with the law, which ended up kind of being my saving grace. They got called to intervene and things got out of hand. So I found myself in jail again for 60 days. And that's kind of where I started turning myself around a little bit, at least orientating towards the right direction. I moved out to Hawaii after that and kind of started over, quit taking medication. I ran out like 3 weeks into being in Hawaii, and I was like, well, I never liked taking it, so I'm not going to go to a doctor and get more. So I started finding other ways to help myself. Started hiking, started kayaking, started working on a ranch, and I started working around horses. I found a lot of healing in that. So I was able to find my healing through outdoors and natural ways of healing. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot more to it. I won't dive in super deep right now. I'm sure you'll have some questions, but ultimately, you know, that's kind of where I discovered my purpose and what I was supposed to be doing. You know, I realized if those kind of things helped me, you know, how many other people could they help? Obviously, I didn't know much about recreational therapy or equine therapy or any of that stuff at that point. I just kind of happened to stumble upon them. Then in 2019, I found myself homeless and unemployed when I got let go from the ranch that I was working at. I also lived on the ranch. So just like that, when they let me go, I lost my job and my place to live. So ended up homeless for about 9 months. Not as bad as it sounds when you're in Hawaii, you know. No. Picture my scenery. I had a hammock slung up between 2 trees on the beach, listening to the ocean and waking up to the sunrise every morning.
There's worse places to be homeless.
Yeah. So it wasn't that bad. Now 3 of those months were because I was homeless and unemployed. But it was in that homeless and unemployed time that I started working on trying to start my business and create this ranch to help veterans. At that point, it was just veterans. Then after I got a job, I continued to live homeless so I could take the money that I was making and put it into getting it going. And then obviously COVID happened, so I was forced to move back home. So I moved back to Arkansas, and you know, kind of kept working on it from there. And well, December of 2021, I moved down to the Houston area to continue growing that. But I'll stop there and let you. I'm sure you got some questions.
So. grow on the ranch that you kind of run now for rehabilitation. I'm gonna go jump in there and fill in that gap that you stopped there, and we're gonna talk a bit more about that because I love the fact of it. I'm looking at running some retreats for motorcycle riding because that was my thing. So, but let's jump into a few things that you kind of said. I'm gonna go kind of back, and then we'll kind of work through the timeline. Wanted to be a Marine since 3 years old. Obviously, very huge family, military side of stuff. I know I don't have any family that's military or law enforcement, but I know I've worked with a lot of law enforcement people or people that want to, and they've got family that are law enforcement. And there's, as you even admitted, childhood trauma. Is it from your dad being military, you think? Or is it from the work that you've done? Or is it just other stuff?
There's a lot of aspects to it. Yeah, obviously my dad's got his own trauma that
exactly.
Secondhand trauma is a real thing, as I've learned here in my journey to help others. Also, my dad's not my biological father. My biological father signed over his rights to me, and my dad did a good job raising me, but there's still that trauma and hurt from not having my biological father in my life.
Yeah.
Which it wasn't until maybe 2 years ago that I even realized how much of my behaviors and stuff were attributed to that. And then, you know, trauma growing from my dad. And yeah, so, you know, I had depression when I was a teen, ADD, all kinds of stuff that all just played into that. So depression and me aren't, we're good friends. We've been friends for a
You're
long
not
time.
shy to each other.
Yeah.
No, that's all. So you're you know, you obviously, you know, you said from 3 years old you want to be a Marine. You went through all the process, and I know a few Marines. My cousin was Army, so not the same. And you guys kind of always butt heads, from what I hear. But we'll always have each other's back. Just to kind of put that in there. But I also know like how hard it was for me to join law enforcement. So I know there's a massive aspect, and it takes so much blood, sweat, tears, everything to kind of get into it. And then 2.5 years in, had you done a deployment or anything, or was it just all training and stateside at that point?
No, we kept working up for deployment and kept getting pushed back. And then I found myself in trouble, and then they finally got cut orders. So they deployed shortly after I got out. So
Yeah.
never got to go on deployment, which
Yeah.
is part of the reason I went enlisted and not officer, because I was like, well, Afghanistan, that was back in 2012, you know, and we were pulling out of Afghanistan. Obviously, we stayed there until 2020. So I was like, well, I'm going to go in because I want to go to Afghanistan. I mean, I guess when you grow up around the war, seeing your friends, family members going off to fight war and all that, it's a big part of your life. And I remember vividly, you know, the day of 9/11. So it had a huge impact on me. So I was like, yeah, I want to go over there, and I want to fight before it's over. So that motivated me to go enlisted instead of going to college. Never got to deploy, so I was like, well, maybe I should have gone to college. But
hey, you got a whole bunch of experiences from that, and so obviously the sexual assault happened, and we don't need to go into huge details about that. But how did you find that started? You know, did you find that started you to, you know, what did you start to feel when it came to, you know, that happened? You knew it wasn't true. Obviously, it was proven that it wasn't true, but you've been blamed for this. How did you feel when that kind of all happened?
A lot of things. Some anger, resentment, mostly betrayal, though. You know, you're taught that like your command is supposed to, they're supposed to be like your parents, right? Like they're supposed to protect you and watch out for you, and they just kind of turn their back on me. And I'm not even guilty. Like I'm just awaiting trial, and they treat me like I was guilty. It was more like guilty until proven innocent. Like they did a lot of messed up things, you know, like they told everybody I wasn't allowed to have visitors. So the only visitor I got the whole time I was in the brig with my mom, the 2 times she flew out to see me, none of my buddies came to see me. So I had this impression that everybody hated me. Everybody felt the same way that my command reflected, that I was a piece of shit and some terrible person. You know, when they would come for their weekly command visits, there was only one staff sergeant that would treat me like I was a normal person. And I liked it when he came, because he would sit there and he'd have a conversation with me like I was a real person. Everybody else was like, what do you need? Okay, bye. And like, they were like,
ticking a box.
Yeah, it stung a lot.
Yeah, no,
like they just threw me to the wolves, man.
Yeah.
And honestly, it wasn't until I started going to the Power of Our Story with Sarah and them, and I opened up one time about it, that I even made the connection that that was traumatic for me.
Yeah.
You know, I never looked at it that way. And then as soon as somebody said, wow, that must have been traumatic. And I was like, oh shit, maybe, yeah, maybe there is trauma there.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you look at it. Your dad gave up his rights for you when you were a kid, and then you always wanted to be a Marine. And then once you're a Marine, the thing that you're like, this is what I'm gonna do forever. As soon as something happens, again, everybody's like, bye, see you, Mike. And yeah, no, that far out, yeah. So as I know, PTSD and burnout, and we talked about this before we started recording, have a huge correlation with each other, and one can cause the other, and it becomes what I call like a vicious cycle. It's like you're on this hamster wheel, and they're both empowering each other. How do you feel that there fed into the things that came next, the suicide attempts, and because there's a lot of people out there that have that happen and go, well, thank God I didn't have anything, and they carry on, and what do you feel caused you to go down the road that you did?
Yeah, definitely burnout. Like, it's a real thing. It's, I've experienced a couple different kinds of burnout. That kind of burnout was like this burnout and a will to live and a will to fight. I mean, like, did I ever really want to not be here? No, I was just tired of fighting. I was just so, because you're just like constantly fighting. Like, I want to be better. I don't like being this way. But it's just like, it's hard. Like, if you've ever battled PTSD and all that, like at the beginning, it's really hard. And especially when you don't have a good support system around you, like people that don't understand, or my ex-wife, she was good at poking the bear and making shit work instead of trying to make things better.
Yeah.
And all of that adds up, and you're just like, I just like every time that I attempted suicide, it wasn't because I didn't want to be here anymore. I was just tired of fighting.
Yeah.
I was burnt out.
Yeah.
But there was always that voice that said, keep fighting, keep going, which I knew was right, and I wanted to listen to it, but I was just like, I'm so fucking sick and tired of fighting that, like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, it gets tiring fighting. I know. Yeah, it's those things, and then having being in a military family, and then I mean Marines is you're the first one in and the last one out. So it's that fight. How did you find that by giving up on the fight, it actually caused you to burn out even more?
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of became like like a vicious cycle or tailspin, as I say. You're like trying to go up. You want to be out of it, but you're just, I think when you're burnt out, it's kind of like your tires are spinning, but you're not getting anywhere, right? Like, I didn't have the support. I didn't have the resources. Obviously I didn't have like a VA. I had to figure shit out on my own. And that we're not supposed to fight alone, right? Like, and that was the hardest part. If it wasn't for me going to jail,
yeah,
and for my friend offering me the opportunity to come stay with her in Hawaii and kind of start over and remove myself from that situation, who knows what would have happened, right? Maybe I tried a fifth time and was successful. Or
that I wanted to ask that as well. What do you feel? Because I know we get to that point. Like mine was, I almost cheated on my wife, and I was like, "Fuck, there's something wrong here." Not that I wanted to get help, but I just went, "Okay, cool. I can't do this to her, so I'm gonna get a divorce." And then I just, for some reason, there was something in me that listened to her, and we went to counseling again, and I started to get help. So I'm grateful that I almost cheated on my wife, even though it caused so much pain. But I'm grateful for it. Just like you're grateful for, getting arrested that second time. What was it about getting arrested that made you that forced you or allowed you, not even forced you, but allowed you to be open to accepting the help from your friend in Hawaii?
Um, well, I mean, so at that same time that I'm dealing with all of that, like I was in a very toxic marriage, and um, she was cheating on me the whole time. She was um, very abusive, mentally, sometimes physically, verbally. It was very toxic, and especially when you're, you know, in that early stages of being diagnosed with PTSD, like you're trying to figure all that out, and then you get all this going on, and it's not helping any at all. So it removed me from that situation. Um, Ended up getting a divorce after I put in the paperwork after I got out of jail, and then moved off to Hawaii as far away from that toxic environment as I could. Um, but I guess, I realized like that was my fourth attempt, and obviously it wasn't my time to go. And I sitting in jail for 60 days gave me a lot of time to think about that, and realized that I needed to do something different. And, my friend was there for me. She was the one that I would call late at night, like in tears because of like how I was struggling with the PTSD and my wife and all of that. And so I moved as far away as I could, and just started again.
So what I'm hearing, and I just want to clarify this, for myself, but maybe even for listeners and viewers, is what I'm hearing is that one, you had so much toxic stuff going on that wasn't just what was going on internally, but there was also external stuff. And so really, first off, you all of a sudden you felt like you had no support anywhere, and all of a sudden you had massive support by this friend who lived in Hawaii. And so it was like, oh my God, I've got support here. Okay, cool. I can, you got time to reflect, and with that support versus the first time where you didn't have any support when you got arrested and that you had no support. There was nobody that cared about you, nobody that was on you, that was batting for your side besides maybe that staff sergeant a little bit. But again, there was still that kind of, is he doing this because he has to, or, because there's all the other guys going on. Whereas this time it was like, she genuinely just cares about me. There wasn't correct me if I'm wrong, but from what it sounds like, there wasn't an emotion, there wasn't a wanting to be with this person, but it was a, holy crap, I've got some support here, and it's genuine support. I've got genuine support from somebody who actually cares about me. I feel cared about. Gave you time to think about it, reflect on it. You made some changes in your life, and then you went, fuck this, I'm getting out of here. I need to escape as well. So I'm going to go escape to that. So I'm in that area of support, which obviously you're still here with us. You've done so much amazing stuff, which we'll get into here shortly. And it changed your life. It was. Am I correct with that, or did I say
absolutely? Yeah. It was totally, like I needed somebody there, and she was just there unconditionally and really helped save my life. So yeah. I mean, her and I have been friends for a long time. So we've been friends for 6-7 years at that point. And that's why, I trusted her, and she was there and supported me, and in a time that I really needed somebody to support me. So, yeah.
And I want to bring awareness to that for listeners and viewers. Anybody who's kind of going through any kind of struggle or feeling like they're burning out, or maybe they're at that massive area, that massive stage of PTSD, or in their relationship, or whatever is going on, and you're in that really, you're burned out. You're like, this is just, I'm done with all of this. Lean on somebody. Allow somebody to, allow yourself to lean on someone that you feel that unconditional. And if you don't get it from one person, keep allowing people, because it makes that huge difference, as we just have seen from Michael's experience. I want to jump over to Hawaii. I love Hawaii. I've been there, I think, like 15 times in the last 10 years. It's like my second home. I'm about to go there at the time of this recording. I'm about to go there in like 5 days for a week, and then to California, and then back to Maui. So absolutely love Hawaii, and I know it just calms the soul, doesn't it, Mike?
Oh, dude, it's a special place. Yeah.
Yeah, it has some sort of, as The Rock called it, some sort of mana. There is some sort of just calmness to Hawaii. And I think that's why a lot of people are drawn to there. So you go to Hawaii, you're there, you get on a ranch, you start doing this outdoor stuff. What got you into doing the outdoor stuff?
Um, I mean, dude, there's beautiful mountains and there's so much outdoor activities to do. Like the beach. I love it because like you drive down the road, you got the ocean on one side and mountains on the other. Like the only place you can really go and see that. There's like 50 feet away from you on the left is a mountain, and 50 feet on the right is the ocean.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I want to try. I'm gonna try out some of these hikes. So I would start hiking, and I'd be like, dude, this is rejuvenating, and then getting out there by myself and just surrounded by nature with those beautiful views. It's peaceful. Getting out on a kayak on the open ocean, it beat the shit out of you, but it's fun and it's relaxing. Once you get past the big waves, right? And I just realized how peaceful and therapeutic it was, and I felt the way that it made me feel to be out there doing those things. And then when I started working on the ranch, I didn't even start in horseback. I started as a zip line tour guide, which was fun. It was great. But I always loved horses. So when I was given the opportunity to go over and learn and transfer to that department, I found that helps me deal a lot with the internal, the emotions, my energy, how I interacted with other people, just in how I had to interact with the horses. And I found a lot of healing through that, because horses reflect and respond to the energy that you put off. And, it had me, I'd get angry with them. And then of course they only act worse. Right. And then you gotta like take a deep breath and calm yourself. And I found, I used to have really bad road rage, and I found working around horses after a few months, somebody cut me off in traffic. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing. All right. I was just like not mad about it. Just like, whatever. Yeah. No harm, no foul.
Yeah.
And it just started having a positive impact on how my relationships went. And I guess that's where I call it my light bulb moment, because I was out on the trail one day giving a tour, and we're just going along, and all of a sudden like this light bulb goes off above my head. It's like, dude, like if this stuff helps you, like how many other people can this help? And that's when I realized like, hey, that's what I was supposed to be doing.
No, I love that. It's so true. Animals are one of those things. Like I've got 2 dogs, and my wife, when I left, we had 1 dog. We had our oldest, and he was there for her like the whole thing. And she goes, he saved her life while I was away. While I was off, I did a motorcycle trip, and I had that light bulb. Like for me, it's motorcycles. It's like that calm, that just you and the road, the scenery, the nature, all of that as well. And it's that special thing, and then it is that once you find that thing that's for you, that it just excites you and calms you at the same time. There's so much power in that. No, that's awesome. What island were you on?
I was on Oahu.
Oahu. What's your favorite hike?
So actually my favorite hike is, I love Crouching Lion.
Yeah.
One of the best places to go watch the sunrise from. But I had a hike that I loved to do. It was back in the Kahana Valley, and there's a tall mountain back there, and you got to hike like 2.5 miles just to get to the base of the mountain, and then it's like almost 2,300 foot climb.
Oh wow!
And take you 8 hours round trip if you're really pushing it, maybe 10. And I used to love going out there. You're just out in the valley by yourself, and then you get up on top of this mountain. It sucks climbing it. It's real steep, a lot of times muddy. But when you get up to the top, like that sense of accomplishment And then the views from up there, like you can see pretty much the whole windward side of the island. And it's
Do you think
satisfying.
do you think that those hikes like that being your favorite hike there, do you think that comes from, obviously there's something within you if you're a Marine, all of that, and I know for first responders we have this personality, we have to, that we never give up, we never back down, we keep fighting. As you said, you wanted to stop fighting, and that's why, and so we get to a point where it's like either we do all or nothing. It's like I'm giving everything, or fuck it, I'm done. Do you feel you do that same thing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I remember one time I was doing that hike and I just like, it was extremely kicking my ass that time. And it was like super muddy and probably a little too sketchy to be doing it. But I was like at like 1,800 feet, still got like 400 feet to go. But that last bit's like all straight uphill. And I remember I like stopped for a minute and put down my pack. And I was contemplating turning back. I was like, I've been to the top before. Like, what if and I was like,
Yeah.
no, you gotta, like, we gotta finish this out. But I remember when I like looked back and I saw like how far I'd come. It was like, I had like this like epiphany, I was like, dude, this is like life, right? Like sometimes you're in that valley, and in that valley, it's jungle. You can't see shit. It's dark. It sucks. And then you start to climb and you can see how far you've come. And it's still hard. Like when you're on that uphill climb, but you're no longer in the valley, but you still got to keep working hard. And I just like had that realization, and I was like, the journey sucks sometimes, but when you look back on it, and you see how far you've come. It's such a beautiful sight.
Yeah, I love that analogy. It's so true. Was that hike that time when you kind of went through that? Was that while you were still working at the ranch, or was that once you kind of had been let go and you were in that homeless stage?
No, well, actually, I think that time I was in that homeless stage. Yeah, I think I would either, because I worked on two different ranches, and so I think it was after I left that second ranch. I was kind of in that in between stage, and
I
just
It's amazing because I'm a huge fitness guy. I do a whole ton of stuff. I've done lots of like lots of different things, and fitness gives you what you need in that time. Like it brings perspective. Like those hard pushes bring perspective of whatever is going on in your life, and it's amazing to hear. Like I thought it might have been during that kind of homeless time when you were really going, okay, cool, what's next? Where am I going next? Because it just puts a reflection on us. And so that kind of brings me into that kind of time. First 3 months, you pretty much started figuring out what you were going to do, how you're going to, I take it, I'm going to kind of project some stuff out there, how you were going to kind of take the stuff that you've learned and start to help other people with it, because you recognize with the horses and that on how that could do that. And then for 6 months, you stayed homeless and just saved all your money so you could do what you do now, which we'll talk about here in a second. What did you learn during that first 3 months? What was the biggest thing that you learned during that?
uh patience was probably one of the biggest things, because I mean, I immediately went into like fight or flight mode, right? You're like, oh shit, like I've got a vehicle, and that's about it. Like, and I was applying for jobs and probably applied for over 100 jobs and wasn't even getting called back for an interview. And I'm like, dude, I'm well overqualified to flip burgers at McDonald's. Like, what the hell? And I mean, it's just kind of one of those God things. Like, I met a life coach, and I was just trying to find a job, man. I wasn't looking to start this business. Like, I was just like, dude, I just want to get jobs so I can have some income. And I reached out. I was like, maybe my resume sucks. Like, so I was just reaching out, like trying to get a job. And he asked me that hard question. He's like, what do you want to do with your life? And of course, I like started listing the jobs I'd apply for. he's like, you missed the question. He's like, if you can be anywhere in 5 years, where would it be? And mind you, at this point, it's been 2 years since I had that light bulb moment.
Yeah.
And it had been my 5-year plan for 2 years, and I just sat on it, not doing anything.
Yeah.
And I said, well, if I could be anywhere, I'd be doing this. And he says, well, why don't you do that? It's like, well, I don't know anything about running a business. And I threw all these
Excuses.
why I can'ts out there. And he's like, that's exactly, he's like, that's a bunch of bullshit excuses. And I was taken aback. I was like, what? And he kind of got me in with this program for veterans that want to do more after leaving the military. And I went through this free 10-day course, and I was like, oh, that wasn't that hard. And, I talked to the guy that ran it because I completed it, found out like 40 veterans had started and only 2 of us had finished. And, kind of put it in, I was like, well, that was easy to me. Like I thought, it kind of put that in perspective. Then I went through a 12-week paid course. Like, mind you, I was homeless, so I had to come up with the money. Ended up selling my TV and PlayStation because I'm like, I'm homeless, I don't need a TV or PlayStation. So I sold them, got the money.
I want to jump into that real quick. That right there is that fight. That right there is the reason that you're still here and why you've done everything you have, because so many people use every excuse under the sun of why I can't do it. You started to figure out, why can I do it? So I just wanted to praise you real quick for that, because that's just amazing. You sold your TV, sold your PlayStation, lived in a hammock, and still did this course of, okay, let's do this. All because of having one conversation with a guy that said, what do you want to do where do you want to be in 5 years? So I love that. Carry on, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, there was more of that too, right? Like, I mean, I wasn't taking care of myself that well. And I was kind of, I wanted to do more, but I wasn't taking care of myself. Which you got to take care of yourself first. And, that was like one of the first lessons in that 12 week thing. Right. And, freaking got myself a haircut, cleaned up, and I immediately started feeling better. And then, 3 weeks into it, I got a job, and, things started, you start taking care of yourself and, making those steps forward. I think it's like a mindset shift too, like if you focus on the negatives, you're just going to see the negatives. You start looking at the positives, you're going to see more and more positives. And I would just, started working through all that and ended up, getting a job, getting back on my feet and progressing forward. But I mean, if I didn't end up homeless, I would still probably just been working for whoever, doing whatever, and I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason, doesn't it? It all happens for us so that we can then evolve and go forward if you're looking for it. So you did the 3 months, then 9 months you stayed homeless. Now, this is going to get us into my number one favorite thing to ask is around your why. What drives you in that? And I know you kind of touched on already around you found your purpose. My belief from research and from doing lots of coaching and talking with lots of people and interviewing lots of people is that why and purpose has actually already been planted. The portal and the airplane or the vehicle to serve it is the thing that we are that we would kind of sometimes struggle to locate. What would you say your why is that caused you to, go for the military, actually not succeed in, the 4 attempts on your own life, the actually working through all this, the being okay with being homeless, the jumping into the program, what you do now with the ranch that you run, and, staying homeless for 9 months. It wasn't 3 weeks or 9 weeks. It was 9 months you stayed homeless so you could save money so you can do what you do now. What do you believe that why and purpose is, that mission statement is such as I call it, that has got you to always fight?
Yeah. I've always had this strong call and will to serve, to help others. which, you know, I guess is what led me to join the military, because I wanted to serve and protect people. And even after, you know, I still wanted to serve, still wanted to help people. So I considered becoming like a paramedic, but then I was like, dude, I got enough trauma in my life. I probably shouldn't add more to it. But, you know, there was always that passion and that need to serve. And when I realized it was helping other people like myself, like that was who I needed to be helping. And once I realized that, you know, who better to lead people through stuff than somebody that's been through it themselves. I realized everything I went through allowed me to help others through it, because I've been there. You know, it's like going to a counselor or a therapist. I mean, I love, nothing against them, but if they, you know, they've not been where you've been, they're not going to completely understand what you've been through. And now each one of us has a different story, but when you've been down a similar path, it allows you to connect and empathize with people a lot better than if you haven't been through anything. And at the same time, you know, it gives back to me too, right? Like helping other people helps me. That's where I find the greatest joy and satisfaction, is when I'm helping somebody else.
So how do you serve yourself without serving everybody else? Like you talked earlier on about how, you know, you weren't looking after yourself in that. So how do you now make sure that you're serving yourself 100%, where it has nothing to do with anybody else? It has nothing to do with your business, has nothing to do with your relationship, has nothing to do with the people that you're helping. It is just literally serving and helping yourself.
Well, one, boundaries. You got to establish boundaries, and you got to stick to them. Because people will push your boundaries. Things will push your boundaries if you don't hold true to them, which, you know, comes with finding yourself, knowing your limitations, knowing, getting that deeper understanding of yourself. And, you know, there was a period early in 2019 where, you know, I spent 9 months, just probably about that whole time I was homeless. Like, I was also working on myself and getting a better understanding of me, you know, learning my triggers, learning what bothered me, learning what helped me. And I ultimately had to be, because up till that point, I wasn't happy with who I was. And if I can't love and respect myself, how can I expect other people to love and respect me? So I had to get that appreciation and love and accept myself. And not like when you hear people talk about self-love, like in the vanity sense. No, it's like actually like, hey, I like this person. Like,
you look in the mirror and you go, that person's fucking cool. I like that person.
Yeah,
he's cool.
Exactly. I used to look at myself and be like, dude, I hate who that person is. You know, I did a lot of shit that I wasn't proud of, and been through things that made me question who I was, right? And it wasn't until I got that understanding of who I was and was able to say, you know what, I'm happy with who that person is, which, you know, it took work. It took a lot of time. Like, it didn't just happen like, okay, I don't like this, like, and it's changed. Like, it takes time, and it took a long process, and I'm still working on it every day. But that was the biggest thing. And then, like I said, with knowing yourself, like knowing my triggers, knowing what helped me with the PTSD or the depression or whatever, I have like my go-to activities. Like, if I'm starting to feel depressed, I go do this. And then depending on where I am on the scale of like depression or anxiety or PTSD, like whatever it is, I have activities. I'm like, okay, so it's kind of like a chart. I'm like, okay, so I'm here. So that means I need to do this to get out of that. Or, you know, so I had to do all that it took a lot of work. I put a lot of work into myself, and now in order to help myself, I just, if I'm starting to get anxious about stuff, or like work's getting like, oh shit, I got a lot coming up for work. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go take a couple hours. I'm gonna go disappear into the woods. I'm gonna go for a hike. I'm just gonna sit there and enjoy nature for a little bit, which my mind tells me is like the last thing I should be doing. Is like, no, you need to be working. And I'm like, no, I need to get my head right so that I can do more work effectively. So, putting yourself first, which as veterans and first responders, we don't really do. We don't put ourselves first. We're taught that to put other people first, put the mission first. And so it's hard. Like I said, I struggle with that. I'm like, no, that's not what I need to be doing. I don't need to be taking care of myself, when that's exactly what we need to do.
No, I love that. I love how you use an analogy with first responders and military, and that how, the missions always comes first. But at the end of the day, if you're dead, the mission won't succeed. If you aren't fully trained, if you haven't actually gone through the tactical, you think about Navy SEALs. Those idiots. I wanted to be one at one time, so I'm going to call them those idiots because it's just crazy what they do. They will literally, if they're going to go raid a compound, they'll get all the information about it, and they'll literally set up a mock compound and go through it until literally they can do it with their eyes closed. That's them preparing for themselves. That's them looking after themselves so that when they go raid that compound, it's actually not that hard to work. So it's the same thing when you going for a hike. I love that you recognize that. I believe that everybody has you need to have a proper intent behind something. So say, so with that hike, when you go, fuck, I need to go have that hike. What is your intent that you put behind it?
Oh man. So yeah, I'll just go out, and it's usually like my brain won't shut off, right? Like I've got a lot on my mind. I'm overthinking. I'm like overstimulated. Then it gets to where like there's so much information flowing through that I can't compute it all. And so I go out there with the intent of just getting out there where it's quiet and just quieting my mind. And, it's kind of hard to think about a whole lot of things when you're hiking along. You're just like, oh shit, it's hot. I'm sweating my butt off. Like it just, and then, like your mind starts to quiet. So I like quiet my mind. I'll go find a spot. I'll go sit. I'll go sit on the creek and just listen to the water flow, and then just allow my mind to clear. Let all those thoughts kind of just leave my mind and let me get that recenter and focus.
Yeah, no, I love that.
And then,
hey, go ahead.
Yeah, and then just that allows me that space to kind of reprioritize. Like, okay, well, what's my next steps forward? What's my next action? Versus all that information flooding in and like trying to do 10 things at once. Like, okay, so all right, well, we'll do this first, get that out of the way, and I can have that calm to reprioritize and attack things one bite at a time instead of trying to eat the whole elephant.
Yeah, no, I like that. So it's all about looking after you completely for you, not so that you're better at work, not so you're better at anything else. It's actually so that you are just you, and then you can actually then apply it. But it has nothing to do with I'm going to go out in the woods so that I'm calm, so that then I can actually work more. I'm going to go out in the woods so that I'm calm and peaceful, so that my mind isn't going crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and I use the example of work, but also like if I'm going through things, like just going out there, it allows me that space to process things and quiet whatever I'm going through in my mind and just process through it, whereas there's not all the extra input coming in that comes with the daily life. You're just out there, just you and nature. You can just kind of relax.
I love that. I love that. So, okay, let's talk about the ranch, because I know you started up a ranch there just outside of near Houston in Texas. Um, Next time I'm visiting my uncle in Houston, I'm gonna have to come visit. Uh, but is that photo of the photo that's behind you? If you're watching this on video, is that your ranch or is that not?
So with that, those were my horses I had in Arkansas.
Uh,
I had land and horses in Arkansas. Um, I moved down here in December to Texas. Was supposed to have access to land, kind of got screwed over by another organization. Uh, but I mean, everything works out, right? I was supposed to be going to Austin. Here I am in Houston. Um, don't have land or horses of my own down here, but I work at a horse sanctuary that works with veterans and first responders.
nice.
And they are taking care, like on my retreats, they're taking care of the equine aspect. So the horse aspect, which one less thing I have to worry about
Yeah,
when
it's
I put on
partnership.
my
It's awesome.
retreats.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So I get my horse time every day, and
Wow, that's awesome. So
I
tell us,
learn a
tell us.
lot from them.
Sorry, Michael, I'm going to jump in there. Tell us about what you do, what you've started up now to help rehabilitate, veterans, and I believe also first responders in that as well. But it all started with the veterans. Tell us a little bit about, what it is that you do, and yeah, how you do it. Just the details about it. I want to hear about
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not where we will be. The goal is to have a ranch where veterans and first responders can come out and they can hang out with the horses. They can bond with the horses, have a horsemanship program for them to go through so they can learn horsemanship. Actually have them work with rescue horses and rehabilitate them and get them ready for rehoming. I also do retreats for veterans and first responders. So that's all I have available right now are my healing retreats.
it. Cool.
So they're 3-day camping retreats. We go out. We start with the equine interaction. We do some fun activities with horses, getting them familiar. Maybe they never interacted with horses before. Teaching them a little bit about horses, doing a fun team building activity involving horses. And then we go out to the camp area. We camp for the rest of the time. We do other activities like hiking, kayaking, fishing. We do fireside chats where everybody can sit down and, you can talk about those things, with other people who get it, right?
Yep.
We're more apt to open up to a group of our peers than we are to, anybody else. So there's that space around those fireside chats. You're also connecting with other vets and first responders and getting to build that community and camaraderie. So yeah, that's what we do with that. One day when we get that money, we'll have a ranch, we'll have our own horsemanship program, and a place that veterans and first responders can come out to.
Oh, I love that. I love that, Michael. I know I've got some of the details and stuff here, so we'll put them into the description down below. But just for those that are listening and that, or they want to just hear it, how does somebody get in touch with you to get onto or find out more information about these retreats to start with?
Yeah, you can just go on our website, and I'll give that to you to put in the show notes. I've got 2 domains, and they're supposed to be linked, and for some reason they're not. So, but it is. I just had it redesigned, and having some difficulties there with that. But with the new redesigned website, it makes it a lot easier. You can actually go on and see the dates when we have events, and you can register right there online. If y'all do have questions, you can email or give us a call, and I'll be more than glad to talk to you about it. If you're just like, yeah, that sounds awesome, you can go see when our events are. We've got a couple, I don't know when this will get put out, but we got an event here at the end of July, the last weekend. This one's going to be a 4-day retreat with a special guest, Jennifer Tracy, and we're going to work. We're going to do all those fun activities, the horses, hiking, kayaking, fishing, and we're also going to work through one of her workbooks around hope and
cool.
finding your hope. So that's going to be a really good event. It's open to 15 veterans or first responders. Jennifer has been gracious enough to cover all the costs, but $150. So anybody that wants to come, it's $150, sure. Which is like a $1,500, $2,000, retreat, and that's pretty good. And then I've got a week-long retreat. Yeah, we got a week-long retreat coming up in Idaho, which is open to 5 veterans or first responders. That one's going to be $2,000, but we're going to do a lot of awesome stuff there. We're going to do some hiking, some fishing, some horseback riding, some work with horses, getting to live out on the ranch for a week and experience ranch life. A lot of awesome stuff that's going to happen in that time. Also, like a 2-day reloading class on how to reload ammunition yourself, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that's going to be a really fun one. Again, that's only got 5 slots open on it. That one's going to be real small and intimate. And then our regular retreats, cap them at 10 people, to keep it nice and small, nice small groups. And then those will start up at the end of August. The dates are all on the website, and those are $500 a person.
That's nothing.
So
man. That's nothing. That's nothing.
It's not. It's not. It costs a lot more to put them on, but trying to hook up, our brothers and sisters at a price that's like, okay, it's not too bad.
Yeah, no, I love it, and we'll put all the details down in the description down below. So make sure you have a look at that to get into the website and email Michael on those. Awesome, Michael. The last kind of question that I really have for you, and I ask everybody this at the very end: what would be your top tip to self-happiness?
Man, top tip to self-happiness, you gotta love yourself. If you're not happy with who you are, you gotta find your way to that person. It's not a short, easy thing. It takes work, takes dedication. But like, we're veterans and first responders. Like, we know what it's like to work hard and have that dedication. We dedicate it to our careers, and why not put that into yourself? And I always say, you don't have to take huge steps, right? Like, work on being 1% better each day, and then over a year you're a completely different person. And if you can't love yourself, then you're not going to be truly happy in life.
No, I love that, Michael. Well, thank you very much. Any last words that you want to add in before we wrap up?
Man, it's a pleasure. I appreciate you having me on here, man.
No, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate everything you're doing for veterans and first responders and that. Those retreats sound amazing, and getting out in nature is the number one thing. My background, I left the police because I was burned out, PTSD, had the depression, the anxiety, everything that goes along with that. And I bought a motorcycle and did 2.5 months through the southwest of the U.S., went all the way to Houston and back to Northern California, 8,000 U.S. miles. And yeah, it was the single best thing that I ever did, because it brought me back in touch with, again, finding who I am and being happy with myself. So totally, nature is the number one key. This is Fight the Burnout. So we bring you real life people, first responders, military, those that are in the highest stress roles that you possibly can be in, where they literally put themselves second 99% of the time, sometimes 100% of the time. And we give you real life tools, real life experiences with this. Now, if you are somebody who wants to know more, wants to learn more, wants to grow more, then reach out to myself, team at createfromwhy.com, and let's get you moving. Let's get you creating the life that you want, really getting to know who you are and being happy with that person. And that takes practice. We run a 12-week group, and we also run some, we're organizing, at this time, we're organizing some motorcycle retreats. So getting out in that nature on motorcycles and learning the tools to never burn out again. So thank you for listening. Make sure you like, subscribe, send this out to whoever it is that you feel could listen or could resonate with this. And make sure you hit up Michael, because he's doing some amazing stuff, and I can't wait to see one day him have his own ranch and run everything through that, because that will just be next level for him and also those that he serves. So thank you very much, everybody, and we will talk to you soon. We love you all.